Hi, and welcome. My name is Elizabeth Yoakum. I am a performing artist, art appraiser, and former gallery director. I'm delighted on behalf of the Women's Salon LA and Salon Mexico to inaugurate Artist Talk, a series of artist talks with members of both the Women's Salon LA and Salon Mexico. So just to give you an idea of the context, these talks and interviews will be about 30 minutes, and as such are meant to be like sketches. Without much preparation, we'll dive into conversation with each artist and speak about what's happening now. Through these conversations, we hope to discover the roots of their work and catch a glimpse of what is to come. These talks, we hope, are aimed to share the work of the artists involved in both salons, to inspire all of us to go deeper in our creative process and to contribute to the conversation of contemporary art. My first guest is Sandra Pani, a Mexican multimedia artist born in Mexico City. She has an illustrious curriculum vitae that can be found on her website, sandrapani.com. And if you Google her name, you'll find several links, information, and videos about her career and work. The focus of our conversation today is really her exhibition, Expendable Self, that just opened at Exposición de la Celda Contemporánea de la Universidad del Claustro de Sor Juana in Mexico City. To set the stage, I'll share a few comments that art writers have offered about her work. Sandra Pani is an artist whose soul is for the moment obsessed with the body as a complex or synthesis of parts or figures that integrate pictorial poetics. They are, so to speak, anatomical inventions, variations, and fantasies. These paintings aspire to capture the essence of the human body, an essence that could only be formal, a yearning for the body to be soul, and for the soul to be made visible by a sign. Salvador Elizondo. And I think I'll leave the last one to read at the end, Sandra.
That's great, Elizabeth.
So thank you for joining me and all of us. And I think at the heart of our conversation to get into is really the exhibition, congratulations.
Thank you.
That opened. And to ask you to speak about this exhibition in the context of where it is, what that means to you, and maybe how that's very particular as a place to show expendable self.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very interesting question because this space called La Celda Contemporánea, it's a wonderful gallery that's inside a nunnery. You know, the gallery itself, it's a very impressive space because they have a glass floor where you can see through that glass floor to the remains of the older nunnery. So just entering the space, it's already, it's very strong. No? This is the second time I've been in this space showing. 5 years ago, I was there making a show that was called Espejo de la Pintura, the Mirror of Painting. And now I'm doing this Expendable Self. And the thing is that I made the work especially for the space. I always do that. It's not like I take the work from the studio and just bring it to space. When they invite me, I just start a dialogue with what the space means. And now I'm working with movement because in this space, they have a reel that moves. So you can move images through the space in one of the places in the gallery, you know, one of the rooms in the gallery.
And when you say reel, that's can you just define what that is, a reel?
Well, it's like you know, when you go to a laundry shop that you have it walks all around and brings you your clothing, that so kind of
a carousel.
How do you call that? Like a carousel. Yeah, sorry, I was saying in Spanish. It has a carousel. And actually, this carousel has been in that space for I think for 10 years, and I am the only person that has used that. No, this is the second time I'm going to be using that carousel, And the thing is that I put some images on the wall, and then some more translucent images, some drawings made in silk, like silk with ink, and some x-rays, and some works I've been working with lead. I was sort of making drawings in layers of lead, and also in glass. I was making also images, drawings on glass with gold leaf. And so you have like the images on the back, and then you have these translucent images that are just moving around the space. They stop. And the interesting thing for me is that when I first arrived there, I wanted like very precise. They have to stop here and stop here for 2 minutes or whatever, or 5 seconds, and then they move on. But the mechanism of the carousel is not that sophisticated. So actually, it stops in a different place every time. And when they stop, they create a different image for what it's on the back, because they completely transform the image that's on the back. So I think it's like a lesson for life, that you cannot control, that everything, the only thing that we know is that everything is changing every second, and everything is different every time. So I'm very grateful that I was able to do this show there. Something that is also very interesting in this time, is not the first time I've done this, but it's the first time I've done it this way. Well, the whole thing is about my expandable self. I am speaking about the self as in Jungian terms. It doesn't have anything to do with the ego. It has to do with the self that is much bigger than the ego. And the work I've worked this through the pandemic is from, I started on the 1920s, and the show and the work that is there is just new work that I've done since then. And I also started working with 2 wonderful artists. One that is Georgina Derbez. She's an amazing classical composer of contemporary music. And another one that's Aurelia Cortés Peyrón, which is an amazing poet. And the idea was that when I started doing this, I just gave them a call and said, why don't we get together every 15 days and I'll call you through Zoom, and then we'll have conversations about what I'm doing. And I invite you to do whatever you want with words, in the case of Aurelia, with poems, and with music from Georgina, to also have a reflection of these experiences and questions that I am asking myself. The questions that I am asking myself are a different way to inhabiting my body. It's like incarnation. It's that I want to be more present in my body. It's a dialogue with my own work from many years ago. In 2013, I made a show that actually was on the States, in New York and in Washington, but never came to Mexico. And it was called My Intangible Self. And I was working with this idea of, I can be very intangible in many ways. I can be very sort of intangible. I work more with this experience of the spirit and this sort of intangible things. And then I am trying to work more with the body as a machine, the body as this, as my flesh. So it's a dialogue with my own work, actually. And it's a new experience. Obviously, I think this is going to be like a new start for me in many ways. I spent a year almost only drawing. There are a few paintings, there are 4 paintings that had to do with the drawings, but it's mainly monochromatic. It's mainly just black and white. It's graphite and paper, and the paintings are oiled with graphite and with but no, I don't have many colors now. And also drawing in many different surfaces, in glass, in lead, in X-rays. So I think it's an exploration of what it is of being alive now.
I think it's fascinating, if I'm tracking it correctly, that you had the intangible self, you had the mirrors, right? And then expandable self.
Yeah.
and how you're working with the space that, in the mirrors, you have this glass floor of which you can see through and probably creates a reflection of your work. So it creates a whole other sensory experience of your work, both visual, but on the flesh.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then the expandable self with the carousel, and what I am also hearing about perception. So the carousel turns, and where it stops, and then it's different every time, changes our perception of ourselves and of the entire experience of your work. So I'm just curious, from the mirrors and place to expandable self, and again, this place, maybe what really shifted, and how did that in any way move your work differently? Because you say you think about, it's not just your work in the studio. You don't just take it and put it, it's like in situ. It's this
Yes, of
very
course.
ancient excavation process in
Yes.
situ. So just curious.
Oh, that's a very interesting line you make there. And I think actually it's true. I mean, all of us went through very difficult times in the pandemic, and it confronts us with our vulnerability and about dying, and about, I mean, when everything started, we're just blown up, and actually that had a lot to do with what I'm doing, but also I was in a very deep process of change before the pandemic hit us. So it's a complete transformation. I mean, it has really, I think my work has really, I would like to say, evolved in many ways. It has changed because my work is my search for certitude in the world, is my search for my identity. As I always said, my work has been a very good tool to find a place in this world. I have used my work to find out, what am I doing here, and what am I here, and why I have so much images in my head that just push to come out, and where's the place for me, and what does these images have to do in this world? Why do they press so much to come? That's one of my tools. And the other tool I've been using is I'm very compromised with Jungian analysis. I've been in Jungian analysis for many years now, and through that I've been able to understand how I have created my own symbols and my mythology, and how these symbols relate to the symbols out there universally. So I think now it's like I am sort of putting words to many things, because, well, it's been a process. It's not that in this special moment I just found the words, but the words have been there for a long time, and I've been writing a lot. I've been writing about what I'm doing, and actually now they just, it's like a climax for me in a way. I can understand more what I'm doing. I can relate more to what I've been trying to do for 20 years. I mean, for 30. My first exhibition was 30 years ago, my first solo exhibition. So I am grateful that I have the space. And actually, I am grateful that I have this space that has so much meaning. And actually, Sor Juana, that's an honor of Sor Juana. I mean, that's a complete honor to be in the same space that Primero Sueño was created. I mean, and it's also a dialogue with the feminine, in that sense, like the nunnery is like a space that women had to use in order to be able to learn to write, to be able to do many things, So the dialogue with that space that you need, also the idea of you have to get into yourself, to be able to be in the world the right way. It's like this enclosure in order to be outside at the same time. So it's been a very interesting experience for me, and I am grateful, and I I don't know, I feel like I'm just a channel for the work. And now that I see the work, I have to make a lot of reflections as well, no? Because they just come through me. Now I have to understand many things that came out and are there for me to understand, no?
And can you say a little bit about, because it is beautifully complex and layered, your work in this place. I mean, we could talk about it for hours,
Sure.
and wonder into also, I mean, I feel like there's things that we can say we understand and know, and I think there's a great mystery. The mystery is that conjunction of your work in that place, because that place holds a mystery. And I'm curious, or not curious, but if you could just say a little bit about Sor Juana and what, like, who is she? What is she to you? What is this container for her, this place? And then we'll get off the place, but I just want to just talk
Yeah, but actually
more.
this came from the first time I did the show. From the first time when I did Espejo de la Pintura, I said, why are they inviting me to this space? No? And I jumped through to sort of learn more about Sor Juana, and no, and this idea of a refuge, no, you like women sometimes need a space to feel safe in order to be able to create. That was her story, no? And I think in a way it's a story of all of us, no? That we do need a special space in order to be. And this idea of the silence, of enclosure, of that is something that I've used for many, because actually being a painter is a very solitary thing to do, no? It's because you're mainly by yourself in your studio, sort of jumping inside of you and trying to find meaning in the images that you have inside, no? So I felt this humble connection with her in that sense of her. And obviously, I mean, I cannot say anything about the amazing work that she has done, no? And the place that she has in the literature in this world, no? But the thing that she was a woman, no? In those times, and she's so important, and that in that reclusion and that enclosure, she found her voice, and through that now she's everybody can see her, you know, and so I was very moved by that, but by that idea, no, that I mean, all human beings need and to be with themselves and in an enclosed space and in a safe place. But I think we women have to be fighting for that much more, no? So I think it has a lot to do with that. No?
Yeah, and
like Virginia Woolf, Room of Your Own, no?
Yeah, true. I'm very struck by, and may people walk in to your exhibition with this, you know, walk over this threshold as they walk, as they cross the threshold from everyday life into the cloister and into this space, into your exhibition. I think it's a powerful, what you've laid out is this space is like the vessel.
Yes.
And you began speaking about the self, not the ego, but the self. Exactly. And your journey to be in and understand that this space, this physical architecture, and everything that has gone on in the inception of this particular architecture, the structure, is a journey to the self. So I think it's remarkable. It gives me goosebumps to think about, and I wish I could see your exhibition with this, the gift, the invitation to journey through time and women's intrepid expedition to the self in a kind of repair, you know, repair what was severed, you know, 4,000 plus years ago.
Yeah.
So I feel that heft. I feel that of the exhibition in your work. And I think it's so curious that this, it's such a meaty meaty, substantial investigation that you have, and that your work is, as you've traveled from intangible mirrors, expandable, it's unveils, and it's on paper, and it's graphite, and it's monochromatic, or it's, just grays and blacks. I wonder if you could speak to that. It's that relationship.
Well, I actually love drawing, because drawing is so intimate. I mean, there's no place you can hide in a drawing. I mean, you don't have a lot of matter. You don't have color. You're just completely nude when you draw. I mean, everything that you do is going to be seen, And so it's something and I think it's very automatic. It's like, I don't know, it's so intimate. If I could have a collection of the artists that I love, I would have their drawings. But because from that drawing, the distance from that drawing to the artist is just a pencil. I mean, it's like you can feel them very close, So I love the immediacy and the intimacy of drawing, So the 12 pieces, the main pieces are drawings. I've done a lot of my work have been drawings. But then it was funny, because in the end, I felt this need to sort of be more like to incarnate, And I made these not very big 4 paintings that are full of oil paint, very, very thick oil paint. And sort of and I think it's a dialogue. I start with this idea of the spirit, and as I told you, I can be very intangible and very sort of be a little bit floating, And then I come back and I say, no, wait, you still have a body, you're still here, So I come back, and I think it's very essential. It's very synthetic. It's like, I don't want to be distracted by color or anything. It's just this, It's very gestural. It has a lot of power, and in many pieces, it's a lot of like they're very strong, and they're very strong, and some at the same time are very subtle, and just a very, very thin mark, a very thin line, and that's life, It's that sort of equilibrium between balance, between being strong and being fragile, so I'm working with exactly with those different experiences of being here,
Yeah.
And
Yes,
it's been a trip. It's been a journey.
I can imagine. And I think the capacity to experience that in this life, to know that, and then be able to express that that spectrum, to reflect that back in your work. And I'm curious about you. When I was reading about you, you're early on, you entered a conservatory, or you're a musician, sort of maybe at the same time that you began drawing. But I'm curious how music and studying music, and maybe music as a first love, plays its part in your work.
Well, I mean, that's also a very good question, because it's very funny, but when I was 9 years old, I started piano lessons and painting lessons at the same time, okay? And I remember that I wrote on the back of an album of this played by Brendel of the Beethoven piano sonatas, I'm going to be a pianist and a painter, okay? And then I always did both. And when I was 15, I decided I wanted to study music formally, to be a pianist, And I entered the conservatory, but I had a very terrible experience, because I had a terrible teacher that he just was terrible. He was very proud of discouraging people studying music, He was a bully with me, and I was very young. So I quit it. I just stayed there for a year, and I quit. And I always say it was a hidden blessing, because I never stopped playing the piano, and I've been having teachers and whatever for years, I'm a very good listener to music. I always work with music, always. And actually, I love, when I work, I love many kinds of music, but when I work, I only listen to classical music. Okay. I love music, very early music, Perotino, Leonino, medieval music. I love medieval music.
Yeah.
So I'm a listener, but and I still play. And as I say, I hide in the closet to play. Now I play. I don't hide in the closet because now I'm playing much better because I've been studying a lot. But actually, I'm much more able to express myself through drawing. I've been always I have this ability to draw, but I never think of sounds, or sounds never came to me as something I could express myself with. I could have expressed myself through the interpretation of somebody else's work, like the way I play Beethoven or the way I play Bach. But in this, I can be myself because as I started very young, I decided to be a painter very young. I have a very, I think, peculiar voice. My drawings are, my work is being mined for a long time. So I think I can do more things through making images than through sounds. But music has been very important in my life. It's very important in my life. Now, every morning that I wake up, I listen to 5 musical pieces, like just to start the day, to arrive here, to give thanks, to be grateful, to be. So, I mean, music is part of it. And so that's a very good experience in my show, that I have the music of Georgina in my show, made especially for my show. And it's like my two loves come together, not through me, because I'm not a composer, but through her music, So I'm happy for that. I'm grateful for that as well.
It's interesting. Thank you for that. And it's interesting to me that as visual music, your work appears to me in this moment as visual music because I can hear it. I hear it when I look at it now. That it would be an interesting thing to enter the exhibition and look at your music, look at your, my brain switched it already. Look at your work as music, listen to your work and see the music as the drawings.
Oh, that's I think, Elizabeth, you have to come.
Yeah,
the show is going to be on till the show is going to be on till the end of January, so you have time, and you can stay with me. So you have to come. You have to come. So we can have deep conversations about this.
I think it would be very interesting to invite people into the experience and just upend the brain, interrupt, because what we're talking about, what an aspect of your work is upending the brain. It's interrupting this this way of assembling the self. I think it's this excavation, this traveling through time, this amalgamation of spirit and mysticism and material, and the quest, is very much asking that we suspend suspend our thinking.
Of course. I think my work, it's very funny because as you're saying that, it's like all the thinking and all the analysis I do of my work comes after I do it. I mean, because the work just arrives and I just do it and I just feel it. And I think what mainly I've been doing my whole life is like the images that I make are encrypted sensations. I just have a sensation, and this sensation becomes a mark that I put on a paper, that I paint, and sometimes these sensations stay there for years. I mean, years before I can actually say, okay, this feeling is this, and then make the connection of what that feeling meant in a way, and what that experience meant in many ways. But my images are just encrypted sensations in marks. That's what they are. So obviously you cannot think. I mean, you just have to feel when you see to see my work. You just have to be able to be open and to be able to feel.
I think that
That's,
might be, it's fascinating because in sort of bringing this to a close, encrypted sensations, I just hear that as something coming from the future, from the past, but this encrypted, and that you can sort of, in this space, it'll be interesting to look up encrypted, but crypt is sort of, right? It's what's below. It's what is buried beneath. It's what, and I feel that you're, you know, in this place, and your work is very much an action of that. It has that kind of movement, which you say, you know, you're working more with movement. Just a last question is, and our conversation never ends, because I feel like I'm going to leave our conversation today, and I'm going to be driving or out in the world, and I'll have another question, or I'll really feel this in
that's
another
great.
way. What is, because yes, doing an exhibition, actually physically making an exhibition, is almost a threshold in and of itself. It's
Yes.
both a beginning to something else and a death, a funeral, right?
Yes.
There's that threshold. And I'm curious, not that it has to be completely formed and precise, but I'm wondering if there's a glimpse or a glimmer of something that you feel kind of coming over the horizons in your work. You know, what's sort of that calling to you now?
I think something that it has appeared in some of the pieces of my work now. I used to do very central pieces, like very in the middle. I work with the vertebral column, so they were not moving. My figures and my bones and all the things, they were not moving. They were very sort of formal and now everything is moving. It's very strange. And some of my surfaces are full of things. And usually I love working with I just leave big amounts of paper just blank, and then just a little intervention. And now there's like many things happening at the same time in many places in the paper, no? So actually I never stop working. So it's not that some people do, but I don't, like get the blues from the show. No. My work just continues and continues and continues. It's like I've never stopped, not even when I had my daughter. So I think there are many things that will sort of start appearing, but I think that in that sense, as you say, yes, there are many more elements now, and the myself or the body that's there is moving, even dancing, I would say. And before it was very sort of just lying there, no? So I think everything's moving.
And how does that relate to, because I hear that verticality, and that I saw that there's a beautiful work. I was very struck by it. Has a very strong, it almost looks like a black feather, and it's right at the sternum, and it's very you know, it provokes something. It's like an earthquake. It like sets off an earthquake inside. And I'm curious, as you were speaking, relationship to center. That's what I heard. The relationship to center. And I wondered, how is that changing?
I think it's like myself is expanding. No, I think I was a little bit hiding before. I was a little bit, well, in my process, through my life, I've been invisible many times, and I've been hiding many times. And I've been quiet, and it's okay. And I haven't been moving, no? And now suddenly I am not that quiet anymore. And I want to move, and I am making a balance of not hiding and not being invisible anymore. So, and still I have to keep my center I have to keep my center. I have to keep my core centered. But I am like peeking outside and looking at the world now. So I think it has changed my psychic process. Well, I mean, my paintings and my work is my psychic process in images, no? So I think it's a new stage. For me, it's a new way of being here, you know? So it's a celebration. It's a life celebration.
It is. I guess I'm struck by, in your walking me through that aspect of your process, that again, this continuum, this vessel where your work, last 2 shows, the journey that you're taking to integrate the self, the whole self, and how along with that is a very much the journey of the feminine and the journey of the female to reclaim this. And I also hear in what you say is that the center is everywhere. And I think you have to do so much work to understand that the alignment is here. And then as you're saying, the center is everything. I don't need that column. And that's reflective of the 4,000 years, this continuum that we're in. And that's, I just have goosebumps just thinking about your work and how it really, I applaud you because it takes so much time and dedication and staying, being everywhere, but being focused and not with necessarily the frontal lobe, but all the other parts of ourselves that keep us on that expedition, that quest, and to create a body of work and a career in which you see that emergence, the incarnation of your soul is extremely profound. And I just am so grateful for our talk today.
I am grateful. I am grateful, Elizabeth, very grateful, and we'll be talking.
We will. And could you just repeat where your show is?
Well, the show it's in la celda contemporánea del claustro de Sor Juana in Mexico City, and it's going to be up until the 29th of January. So there's a lot of time to visit the show and to see. I'm just sharing my experience. I don't want anybody to understand me or to feel for me. I want people to feel for themselves, their own process. No, this is not about me. Actually, this is not about me. Those images, they just come and I just grasp them and I just do them, but it belongs to all of us and to all our process of all of us, women, men, everybody has a self. Everybody's looking for a place now. We're all looking for a place.
That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. Thank you so much. I really bow to you, and especially that message. That is the self that's speaking. So thank you again. And
thank you.
Yeah, and we'll stay tuned.
We will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a beautiful day.